Economics, Finance, and Investment. Put your hands together for him. I told you yesterday that your hands are part of the participant in this conference. So please kindly give your hands the permission again to put themselves together and acknowledge these persons that I am acknowledging this morning and recognizing this morning. You're welcome, sir. The rapporteur for this session is no other than also our own delectable Dr. Angela Ogbu of the Department of Sociology and Anthropology, a scholar in our own right. Thank you once again. For plenary session 2, physical presentation, we have the chairperson, no other than our very own delectable professor of mass communication, Professor Chambali Obulefu. Please, a round of applause. Please wave to us. Let's know you're here. Thank you, sir. We see you, and we are glad to have you. The rapporteur for that section is no other than Mrs. Praise Kaiser. Beautiful Mrs. Praise Kaiser of the Department of Business Administration. For plenary session 3, we have the chairperson, our very own delectable professor, Professor Mike Asekome, also of the Department of Economics, Finance, and Investment. The rapporteur for that session is Mr. Augustine Gordon of the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. Please put your hands together for these persons. And also, across these various plenary sessions, we have discussants that will be discussing each of all the papers, just like we had yesterday. So, without wasting time, I want us to break out and move to our various sessions where the various chairpersons and the rapporteur will take it up from there. For those of our participants that are online, we thank you for being online and prompt and on time. We saw you already waiting before we came in. So I'd like to I want you to be set in your presentation. I can see Iyamu Osayen there. I can see is that pardon me if I'm not able to pronounce your name. Precious Oha. Peter Igare, you're welcome. And I see Daniel, you're highly welcome. ICT director, who's the host of this, thank you so much, sir. Now, can we break out to our various sessions, and we would hand over the mic to the chief chairperson in this session, Professor Ari Moses. Thank you. Please, let's be conscious of the time. This is the first concurrent session, and it's supposed to last from 9 a.m. till 12. So let's make sure to follow up with all the papers to ensure that we are ending and closing, because about that time we will be having our break. Thank you so much.
No, she didn't.
No.
Do you have the title? Yeah, they say there is one that is not there. They should come back. All right, say we can start up now. Also. Yes, no, it didn't say first that we can take it. Yeah, but we don't have it now.
Good morning, sir.
All right. I think we can start off right now. I hope Onyolo Watiti and Fasu E. Olawale, I hope it's available for his paper, or they're available for their paper, titled Street Level Enterprise and Household Economic Security, Evidence from Market Traders in Ado-Ekiti. And we have Dr. Oyo as the discussant. Are they available to present their paper? Okay. Please unmute, please. We can't waste time though. Well, for time's sake, if they are not available, we'll move to the next paper. Agbeniga Florence Iyabo Osundina Michael for their paper Corporate Governance, Employee Job Satisfaction and Retention of Medical Doctors in Federal and State Hospitals, Kwara and Lagos States, Nigeria, 2020-2025. We have Dr. Chinedu as Oji as our discussant. I hope you are ready for your papers, please. Go on.
So, Chief Aboying.
Okay, it's not responding to us. Hello, we don't have the luxury of time. We are moving to the next. If you are not available, please.
Adam, I will not lie to you. This is not most times, this is not a way to go about business. This is 9:30. Wood has not been to the site.
Please mute your...
Please mute your marks, controller. I'm making call. We are hearing you. Please mute your marks.
Where is it? Okay, if we have the presenter from Liberia, if you are available, please, we are ready for you.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, you are welcome.
Liberia is available. We are ready.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay, good morning. How many minutes do we have attached to our presentation?
5 minutes, please, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you for the time.
Yeah,
I'll be presenting on the paper titled Strategic Management and Leadership, a Pathway to Organization Growth, Sustainability, and Effective Governance. But I'm representing two other co-authors, Professor Kemi and our other professor from India. Strategic management and leadership focuses on few things which I would love to inject on few major topics or major points. Strategic management and leadership are essential for organizational success. Organizations face rapid global changes and competition. So effective strategic leadership management is essential if an organization will make progress or go any further. I want us to look at strategic management. The definition of strategic management is the process of planning, implementing, and monitoring. So if any organization is to make progress, be it institution, business-wide, or even a country is to make progress, the first thing that institution is to get involved into is planning. Any institution that will make progress, any nation that will make progress, they have to have short and long-term planning. The next thing I have to do with implementation. In writing the plan, it is not enough. You must have implementation strategies, and you must put the plan to work. The next thing I have to do with monitoring. You should have a monitoring system set up for the implementation of that entire engagement or plan. Lastly, you have to get evaluation. evaluating organizational goals. You have to evaluate your organization goals to know whether the organization is going further with their plan, whether the plans that you people make is being implemented or not. So if the organization neglect strategic management and strategic leadership, the to be sterile. That's why you see most organizations and most entities are very sterile, because most of our institutions are operating with plans, but those plans are not being implemented. They are not being put to work, or there is no action. Secondly, before I end my presentation, I want us to look at the relationship between strategic management and leadership. The main idea, strategic management gives direction. Strategic management is the channel through which an entity or the leaders give direction to his or her follower. If there is no strategic management within the scope of the organization or the entity will just be operating, and they will think that they are making progress, but they are not making progress. Strategic management, it also helps leadership show implementation. The leaders will know that things are being done. It communicate vision. Strategic management and leadership communicate vision. It motivates employees. Employees love to be motivated. They want to know where they are heading. They want to know what they have achieved. They want to be rewarded. They want to be appreciated for what they are doing. So once the employees or the followers know where they are heading, they will be enthused. They will be motivated. They will be motivated to do more. And then the organization or the institution will achieve much. But most institutions are not achieving much because the followers do not know where they are leading. Some leaders are not leading strategically. The next thing that strategic management does is that it allocates resources. What is suffering Africa is that we do not, we solicit funds and we do not allocate them for the reason, or we do not use them for what it was collected for. We most often divert our fundings from that which, for the purpose of which it was collected for. So strategic management also help the entity to allocate funds and then manage change. One of the things that most entities neglect is change. And there is no way that the entity will make progress if the entity do not manage change or accept changes. Then it brings about result of strong leadership, and it also create a means of successors. There are entities that there are no successors. Then it also causes better institutional reputation, employee satisfaction, increased profitability, and sustainable development. Lastly, then I close and accept a few questions perhaps if that chance is given to me. Strategic management process, one, environmental scanning. They analyze internal and external environments. Where we are, where are we operating?
We have 1 minute
Are we
left.
Are we operating among the rightful people or not? Thank you. I'm open up to any questions or anything. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. So, thank you very much. We now call on the discussant, Dr. Okungbowa.
Good morning, my chairman, Prof, and my amiable colleagues. I want to appreciate you for the work well done and for your presentation. Thank you very much. I went through your work carefully. I would like to make some comments to help to strengthen this paper. Okay, generally, when I went through the work, it was a bit difficult for me to classify your work, whether it's under empirical, conceptual review, or opinion paper. It was difficult because most of the ingredients that could classify your paper into any of these categories that I just mentioned, I really couldn't find them. So I don't know. I had to make an excuse there. I just felt maybe this is a draft. You're probably going to be sending something more robust. I may be wrong. So, but let's delve directly into it. So maybe when I conclude, you will understand why I said that. First, looking at your abstract, your topic, strategic management and leadership, a pathway to organizational growth, sustainability, and effective governance. Very apt topic, well loaded. I was excited. So when I looked at your abstract, rather, well written, I must commend the flow. You had good flow. I could read clearly. Yes, the abstracts look good. I saw the method you picked there, analytical and qualitative method, and you stated your objective clearly. However, when I went through the work, I didn't see any place where I could pin it to say, oh, you adopted the analytical approach or even the qualitative approach. So it was more like a research work done by you and you alone. Reason why I could say that is because going through your full paper, I could just see only 2 in-test citations, one by David and the North House. I think you will confirm that, in-test citations. And in terms of their recency, they look a bit obsolete in terms of their year. One is 2017, while we are already in 2026. So please, that's one aspect in terms of citations. It was more like you writing from your head and more like a textbook way of writing. So I will appreciate if you can put it down in a prose form. All of those points you raised in each sessions, like telling us the clear organizational decision, the strategic management provide organizations with the following. Instead of like itemizing them or putting them in bullets like you did, you can write them in prose. And apart from writing them in prose, people have said things about this point. I think it will be proper for you to, acknowledge those persons and cite reference to back your claims. Otherwise, it will just be like something prepared for you to, give lecture in your class, in the classroom. Okay, so that's basically about referencing. And secondly, the structure. There's a standard structure for articles for publication. I didn't get to see that in your work. What I saw was you numbered your subsessions, number 1 to 12, where recommendation took 12. It started with introduction to recommendation. There's a standard way. I think there should be an introduction, which should be like your number 1. Then number 2, literature review, where all your conceptual and empirical as well as your theoretical review should come under. Then, of course, when you move away from there, you are looking at methodology. And then, of course, discussion of findings, result and discussion of findings. Of course, your paper is not empirical. But if you had done the thorough literature review, you will still discuss findings. Because what you did, you will now be comparing it with what previous authors have done in this area of discourse. But there was really no empirical review. So it was difficult for you to say you are discussing any finding vis-a-vis previous findings. So I would like you to structure your paper in the right manner so that it will flow. And if we need to publish it or you need to send it to any journal, it will be accepted. But the way it is right now, it doesn't seem to fit into any given journal. Okay. So what you called number 4 in your write-up, relationship between strategic management and leadership, I think this is talking about link. And from my own perspective, they are like the solution variables in your topic. And the problem variable in your topic is organizational growth, sustainability, and effective governance. Going through your work again, I didn't see much about the organizational growth issues around bordering around organizational growth, sustainability, and effective governance. And these actually look like what you are, trying to provide solution to with the help of strategic management and leadership. But much emphasis was laid on strategic management and leadership. But little or nothing was said about organizational growth, sustainability, and effective governance, which actually form the problem. Please, can you mute your mic, please? It's obstructing my discussion here. Thank you. Okay, so that's about that session or number 4. If you need to do that properly, I'm suggesting you will have to look at previous work, what they are saying about the relationship between strategic management and leadership. Then you do another link again between strategic management and organizational growth, sustainability, and effective governance. Then a third link on strategic management or leadership now on organizational growth and effective governance. So this, under each of these subsessions, you are going to look for already existing literature to see what they found, because there are people who probably have written on this topic using empirical analysis. Some would have also used qualitative method, some quantitative, analytical, just like you did. So what have they said? What are the contradictions that they found in their work? You have to bring them in, cite them, acknowledge them. So these previous authors' ideas, conclusions will then form your own basis for discussion of all those points and recommendations that you made. So that's for your session 4, 5, and 6. Then again, I think under your conceptual also, you tried doing that. You gave us how 2 persons for each of those key terms, how they conceptualize strategic management, how the other guy also conceptualize leadership. So I think that's not sufficient. What are other opinions? Then you also failed to tell us how you operationalize or conceptualize the keywords in your topic. And like I rightly said, the other aspect of your topic, you didn't conceptualize them. I think you should bring in something to tell us what they mean. So basically, your work need a lot of overhauling in terms of structure, empirical review, and discussion of findings vis-a-vis previous authors' findings, and of course their own recommendations. Then lastly, on your references. So I wasn't surprised when I saw your list of reference was about 6 or thereabouts, and was about 6. Let me be specific with that. It was about 6. And most of them were old. I think the earliest is 2020 or 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So please, and then I even asked, I said, where did you now get these 6 references? If in your inter-citation, we could just see or count 2. So I think what you were to write there was supposed to be bibliography, but As a matter of fact, there should be in-test citation, a number to show that this work, all these things you wrote, didn't just come from your head. Okay, so beef up your reference, boost your, do a thorough empirical review, and I will suggest you segment it. You can do it based on years, before COVID, after COVID, whatever, so that you can have something to discuss your findings with, then make recommendations. Otherwise, your recommendations will be based on what you think, not what is in the public domain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for that thorough review. I think at this point, we give the general audience, I think about 5 minutes. So please, can we make contributions that will help to further enhance, improve this work? We have just 5 minutes for that. Please, you can call for the mic if you are ready. Any more contributions? Well, I'm not surprised. I think the discussant made elaborate discussion of that work. So I think we have enough idea and improvement if we can really take to those corrections made.
Okay.
Do you have any comment? Do you have anything to say? Tell the house.
Yes, I want to tell her thank you. The research was done in a very short period of time, was just done in a day, because I received the invitation, I think, a day before. So I have to hurriedly take a night to do a research, but I take into consideration all the things that she pointed out, and I'm going to do further research again, do findings and place the research properly, and then I will send it back to the institution. But thank you for the opportunity to serve as one of your speakers at your great event.
Thank you very much. Where is it? She's not here. Okay. Okay. No, I wanted us to. Okay. Yeah, we called 2 previous works. I just want to find out if any one of you is ready. The first is, who is this again? Oluwale. Is Oluwale ready with your paper? Street level.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm ready. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, please, you hold on. We'll call you back very soon, please.
It's all right. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. It's a Yabo. Florence Yabo, are you ready with your paper? Florence Yabo, the owner of corporate governance, employee job satisfaction, and retention of medical doctors in federal and state hospitals. Are you ready with your paper? She's not there now, so we'll take the next one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, please, Olawale, we are ready for you, please.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
You're welcome.
Panel, please permit me to share my screen. Yeah, good morning to you.
Morning.
The chairman and other panelists. My name is Fasun Olawale. This paper is co-authored with IWOTV. The paper is titled Street Level Enterprise and Household Economic Security, evidence from Ekiti's market traders in Ado Ekiti. First, I would like to start with the conceptual and operational definition. So, what is street level enterprise? According to this study, it's a small scale business operating in public spaces, such as markets, roadsides, motor parks, that are generally characterized with low startup capital, flexible operations, and sometimes informal unregistered nature. So, the introduction. This type of enterprises is not new. It's a major component of informal economic in developing countries, which Nigeria is also one of them. These enterprises are always serving to provide alternative employment for opportunities where the former jobs are scarce or are not available, like Nigeria. However, this study focused on Southwest Nigeria, where we look at over 80% of employments that are fall within this informal sector. However, the study look at how these informal sector street level enterprises contributed to assist the traders to contribute to the household income, provide food for them, enhance their education and health. So this study actually served as a micro study, looking at it from the perspective of advocacy, using convenience and purposive sampling. Statement of the problem. There are key challenges observed that actually led to this study. One of them is the income instability. It was noted that some of these traders are experiencing income instability due to inflation, seasonal demands. Know that some products that are seasonal in demand. So when the trader gets this kind of products, and for example, pullover and sweater during the winter, so when they get this type of market, so the next season, this market will not be useful again for them. They will have to wait for another season. So then economic shock as a result of inflation, sudden inflation, hike in the prices of petroleum and the likes. So it was also noted that there are lack of social protection. So most of the traders are not well or adequately provided for, in terms of social protection, and they don't know. Most of them don't have access to credit because they are informal on registers. Some of them, and because of unstable infrastructure, most of the time they are always also affected. And because of this, some of them usually also experience market harassment, regulatory inconsistencies, business vulnerability, and the likes. Now, research objective. So, this study has a general objective, which is to examine the relationship between street level enterprises and household economic security among market traders in Advocate. So, I have three specific objectives, which is to examine how street level enterprises support household economic activities, assess coping mechanisms used during economic shocks, and to investigate structural and institutional constraints affecting enterprises' growth in and stability in the study area. The study reviews some existing work, which we look at the previous studies in Nigeria and Sub-Saharan Africa, and some findings and gaps were indicated. Common challenges were also looked at, and the gap in literature were actually identified. So, this study actually called on capability theories. Capability theories was actually developed by Amatai Sen in 1980, and there are three things that are major in these capability theories. The first is looking at people, how they are able to achieve, how they use what they have to achieve what they want. Looking at three things: look at the opportunities available to them, also look at the freedom to make economic decision through what they are doing, and also looking at how they use what they are doing presently. I mean, the trade to take care of their home and assessing healthcare and other things. Research method. This study actually is a descriptive research design, and using mixed method. I use some quantitative data collection, designed some structure the questionnaire, and semi-structure interview. I use semi-structure interview in order to control the interview a bit, because some of them are illiterate, so I have to control their responses. So I use semi-structure. Then sample sites. So I contacted 100 market traders, interview and conducted interview with about 10 and questionnaire with about 19 of them. Then the study was actually in Adwekit, and the researchers visited 3 local markets in Adwekiti. There is one we call Ojaba Market, where 40 market traders were contacted, basically those that are selling foodstuffs and grain. Also, there is a market called BC Market. We contacted about 30 traders that actually major on clothing and household goods. Then there is a market also called Ajilosu Market, where we contacted about 30 market traders, mostly street vending and mixed trading. So these are the markets in Adwekiti, Ojaoba Market, BC Market, and Ajilosu Market. So now from the findings, first of all, looking at the socioeconomic characteristics of the respondents, so we contacted about 68% are female and the male about 32%, and majorly
Please,
between
you have
26
a minute more.
Oh, a minute more, okay. Findings, so looking from objective, so one of the major findings from objective one is that the finding indicated that the street level enterprises play a significant role in supporting household economic security. So then looking from the qualitative insight, because we conducted some interviews. So some of what they said were quoted. One of the respondents said that every day I must sell something because my family depends on it. So we are looking at the dependency on daily sales. So then also importance of some of them are doing contribution. We call it a job. So even some of them that said the talk that the contribution they do usually make them, assist them to restore their rules.
Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you very much. Please, can you just go to your recommendation briefly? We'll give you just a minute.
Okay. Recommendation, yes. Yes, my recommendations, the first one is policy recommendations to the government. Recommend that those markets should be improved, as well in the areas of infrastructure, and they should also expand access to microcredit, because some of these traders complain that they don't have access to all this microcredit scheme of a thing. Then the financial institution should develop inclusive financial products for informal traders, because they are categorized as informal traders. And then when planning all these urban cities, so they should also put it in mind to integrate informal market into the city plan, because most of the time, most of these traders, they normally relocate them arbitrarily without information. They just get to their market someday and they ask them to leave.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. We now call on the discussant, Dr. Oyo Gospower.
Thank you, my chairman, and a very big thank you to all here present. Mr. Wale, thank you for wonderful presentation, but I'm a bit worried that the presentation is finer than the work in my hand. To start with, I want to appreciate you for the topic. The topic has a practical relevance as it addresses important socio-economic issues. It is quite commendable. But let's look at ways to improve your work. Your abstract is excessively long. You have 302 word count, and the minimum is supposed to be 150 and maximum 250. Then your abstract has grammatical and language issues. Generally, your work needs serious proofreading.
Noted.
Okay, sir. Then, in your abstract, you said structured questionnaires were used to obtain quantitative data in the form of 100 market traders. I ask, when did respondents become quantitative data in any form? So please recast that. I think it should be qualitative data were collected from 100 market traders using structured questionnaire.
Thank
Please.
you. Well noted.
All right. You also in your questionnaire, you said with a qualitative interview that will go further, That statement is vague and grammatically weak. Please recast.
Thank you. I wanted to do focused discussion in addition to that
It's okay.
initially. I was unable to cover it, so I will remove that.
It's
Thank
okay. Then, while where I really have serious issue with your work is when you look at your topic, you said street level enterprise. And I was glad that when you were discussing, you made mention of things that constitute roadside street level enterprise, to include roadside mechanics, their hawkers, mobile vendors, and all that. But in your introduction, your conceptual review, your empirical review, even your population, everything centered on market traders.
Yeah.
Market traders are not the only street level enterprise we have. It's a serious issue in the work. So maybe you look for a way to incorporate others into it, or you rephrase the topic to capture market traders.
All right. Can I quickly respond to that?
No.
The omission is the motor park. Most of these markets, most of them are in the
Please,
along
can
the
you
roadside. So, but I will accommodate the motor park now.
Thank you. Then your statement of problem, it has excessive description rather than problematization. You spend so much time describing the informal sector rather than demonstrating the research problem. If you look at your statement of problem, there is no clear research problem. Please take note of that. And you also said in that statement of problem, you said, despite the studies in large cities in Nigeria, please mention few of those studies. And I think
all right,
it's also my opinion that you don't have to separately list the objectives or have a section for the objectives. This can be enshrined in your introduction. And I also noticed that you are writing in bullets. Please, it shouldn't be. And your significance of study is excessively long. Then coming to your conceptual review.
all right.
Your conceptual review is more of textbook-like. It is descriptive and not engaging. If you read all your concepts that you reviewed, there's no comparison, no engagement, no analysis. You were just telling the meaning of each of them. And I don't think that is good enough. Okay. Then your theoretical review.
All right.
Yes, the theory you used is quite apt to the topic. However, there is no strong justification for the choice of capability theory over other theories. You did not justify why capability approach is more relevant to this work than others. And also there is a very weak link between that theory and your variables. Okay? Coming to your empirical review, again, just like what happened in your conceptual review, your empirical review it merely summarizes the studies rather than reviewing them. When you talk of empirical review, you are doing a critical analysis, but it is not so. In this case, you are just summarizing what others found. And also, your literature there, the empirical literature, are too old. There is a popular saying that if you are not current You are not
It will be
correct.
correct.
You're 1973, so you just look at them. Okay.
All right, thank you, Prof.
All right. Then coming to your sampling technique. There is no scientific justification for choosing 100 respondents. You didn't give any scientific justification for that. And I also feel that even a study of this nature, the 100 respondents, that they are small. Because your methodology did not explain the total population. It didn't give us the sampling formula. You just went straight to the number of sample that you used. When you were presenting, you said you used convenience and purposive sampling. But here I'm seeing simple random sampling. You said simple random sampling was used. And again, you didn't even tell us how it was used. Please look at that critically. Okay, in your results and discussion, okay, because the conceptual and the empirical review, they were quite not engaging. So in your result, the findings are mere report. And, you know, the findings are, okay, rather you are reporting your findings in using frequencies, percentage, and all that. So I feel inferential statistics should be applied. And as I was saying earlier on, as I round up, your discussion was mere restating the finding instead of criticizing, analyzing them. God bless you.
Hello, please, can you stop sharing your slides so that we can clearly see you, please? And the photograph can be, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, our noble, able discussants. I think we have another 5 minutes for the audience.
Yeah.
Any further contribution?
All right, thank you very much. We followed your presentation. I think the discussants raised it, but I just want to re-emphasize. All right, thank you. If concepts are not well defined, it always causes problem in research. My major concern is with your definition. When I saw street level enterprise, I was thinking of the markets that exist on the street, which is also what we all know, but truly your emphasis on the job showed very established markets. So I think it is where you carried out your research. Where you carried out your research is not in tandem with with the topic itself. That's my major concern, because I know Ojaoba is a big market. Even from the picture or graphics that you showed, the BC and the Ajilosun, these are established markets. So if we are talking of street level enterprise, I think it's something that we should be able to relate with the work that you did. Thank you. So please see how to clarify that. That's my contribution, sir.
Thank you very much. Any other observation?
Thank you, Prof.
Well, if none, do you have any comment? Do you have any?
Yeah.
Are you with us?
Yeah. Yes, I'm with you, sir, Prof.
Okay, so
the network is somehow.
All right.
So thank you very much. I want to sincerely appreciate the brilliant contributions from the professors. We can actually integrate some of these things. However, I want to quickly comment on the street level market. Actually, most of these street traders, they also station themselves in each of this market. It's not that they have shop there, but you see some of them, they have wheelbarrow, some of them, they hawk, but around the market. So those are my target population, and those are the people I contacted, not those that have shops. but those that move around hawking using wheelbarrow and the likes. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Now we move to the next. I hope that, is there any other observation? Auntie, how far?
We are not hearing you. Please unmute your mic.
Okay. Eh? We are through with the first one now. All right, so I think we move to the fourth. Are we at the fourth? Is Professor Adewoye, are you ready with your work? Professor Adewoye, are you ready with your work? The influence of board characteristics and ownership structure on climate change disclosure among listed non-financial firms in Nigeria. Are you ready with your work? All right, if not, we'll move to the next. Mary Kainde Salabu, are you ready with your work? Voluntary tax compliance determinants among MSMEs in Nigeria, perceived tax fairness, digital tax services, and tax literacy. Are you ready with your work? Well, if we are not ready, we'll go to the next. Eh?
Include it to charge it. I told you I want to use it.
I said your own now.
Okay. I think it's from the side. Oluwa, okay. That's Oluwa Femi. No, that's another one now. Yes, okay. Oyeni, is Oyeni ready? Is that what you are saying? Please, we are ready for Oluwa Mercy. If you are available, please, we are ready for you. Oluwa Mercy, favor.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yeah,
good morning, panel.
Morning. You're welcome.
Yes, sir. My name is Oluwames of Favor.
Yes. Yes, we are ready for your presentation. Please go ahead.
Yes.
You have your 5 minutes, please.
Topic of presentation. Okay. The influence of board characteristics and ownership structure.
Mute, please.
The influence of board characteristics and ownership structure on climate change disclosure among listed non-financial firms in Nigeria.
Sorry, we are not seeing you. Can you?
Is one of the most significant issues in the 21st century. It poses severe environmental, social, and economic implications for economics and business organizations across the world. And to address these issues, climate change disclosure is the voluntary or mandatory reporting of an organization's environmental risks, emission management, mitigation, and adaptation goals. And this is a critical way for companies to communicate their environmental responsibility to the investing public. Climate change disclosure in Nigeria is largely voluntary and inconsistent, and firms operating under similar conditions disclose information at different levels, which creates challenges for investors and regulators. And this can cause this is caused by absence of mandatory reporting requirements, when there is weak regulatory enforcement, when there is high cost of reporting, and when there is limited technical and professional expertise within firms, and when the board of directors lack adequate and financial expertise related to climate-related risks, which can lead to, all this can lead to information asymmetry between firms and shareholders, when the managers hide critical information about the company related to climate change from the various stakeholders, and it can lead to loss of stakeholders' trust, loss of reputation, high cost of capital, which can lead to reduced access to foreign investors. My research questions for this study, the first question for my study is, what influence does board characteristics exert on climate change disclosure among listed non-financial firms in Nigeria? My second question is, what is the influence of ownership structure on climate change disclosure among listed non-financial firms in Nigeria? And my third question is, what is the interactive effect of board characteristics and ownership structure on climate change disclosure among listed non-financial firms in Nigeria? For my literature review, I reviewed various studies that talked about the influence of board characteristics on ownership structure. I also reviewed studies that talked about the influence of ownership structure on climate change disclosure. And I also looked at studies that talked about the influence of both board characteristics and ownership structure on climate change disclosure. And I also, and in reviewing those studies, I found out that they used agency theory, stakeholder theory, signaling theory, resource dependency theory to further buttress their point. But the main theory that I'll be using in this study is agency and signaling theory. Agency theory explains how board characteristics and ownership structure function as a governance mechanism that will reduce information asymmetry between the managers and owners, and the influence and the extent of climate change disclosure. Why signaling theory explains the fact that firms use signaling climate change disclosure as a signal of transparency and accountability to various stakeholders. And I reviewed several gaps in the in literature. The first gap that I noticed in literature is that there were limited studies in the Nigerian sector. Then another gap that I noticed in the study is that several studies ignore the interactive impact of both characteristics and ownership structure, which I adjusted in my own study. Another gap that I noticed is the methodology gap. Most studies use basic models such as random effect and fixed effect, and they fail to account for the nature of the dependent variable, which is bounded between 0 and 1. The dependent variable, which is climate change disclosure. For the methodology of my study, the population and sample size, I used 100 listed non-financial firms in Nigeria, and my sample size is 74 listed non-financial firms in Nigeria between 2012 and 2024. I got my data from NGX database, the annual report, and sustainability report. And I used a factor research design for my study.
Please, you have 1 minute more.
My estimation technique, I used Tobit and fractional regression method for my estimation techniques. And for the results of my study, my results stated that both gender diversity is only significant in the OLS model, which shows that both gender diversity shows a positive effect on climate change disclosure. My board financial expertise also has a positive effect, which means they both influence and enhance transparency of climate change disclosure. However, ownership structure and foreign ownership, which I used to measure my demand and the impact of birth gender diversity is not the same across companies. And therefore, my study recommends that regulators should shift from voluntary to mandatory reporting to ensure that stakeholders don't withhold critical information from the members of the public. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
right now we call on our discussants. Oh, Doctor. Yeah. Dr. N. Ogenem Markbo, are you there?
The chairman, thank you very much. The rapporteur, thank you. Mrs. or Miss Oluwameso Favor, Oluwawumi,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you
Yes,
very
ma'am.
much for that presentation. Your
You're
work,
welcome, ma'am.
your work is beautiful. When I looked at, let's look at your work phase by phase, beginning from the topic for want of time. It will be very fast. Okay? Now, from your topic, you said the influence. You should have just allowed the title of the work to speak to the audience. And if you were to do that, if not that this work has already been done, it would have just been corporate governance mechanisms and climate change disclosure. That would have just been your topic, because both attributes that you use, they are under corporate governance. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so because the work has already been done, we'll just modify the title as this. Hope you are taking notes.
Yes, ma'am.
Board characteristics, ownership structure, and climate change disclosure among listed non-financial firms in Nigeria. Did you get that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's quickly get into the abstract of the work. Okay?
Okay.
The
Yes,
abstract of the work, I saw a word like impact. Okay? I would advise that you change it to effects. Okay? Then
Okay,
the first statement you made there in your abstract is not necessary. Okay? And then when you are writing abstract, you don't write it like a mass communication student. Okay? You don't write it as if it's news. There's difference between research, writing for research, and writing when you want to cast news. So you change it, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
I also, I don't know how you'll be able to get my copy, whether it will be snapped to you. Your abstract is filled with words that are kind of futuristic and present. The work has already been done. Okay, so you are now reporting to your audience, and it should be in past tense. Are you with me?
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
okay. Right from your abstract, I want to put something in your mind before I go into the work. Okay, your abstract said that you have 988 firm year. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Please, I want you to be thinking of how you got it, okay? Because when I calculated, it was not up to that figure, okay? Then, still in your abstract, it will not be ideal for you to leave the words like bounded estimators. It will be good for you to unbound it, please, so that the audience will not be in the dark. Are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's quickly dive into the introduction of the work. So that means that your abstract, you need to do a bit of rework. Are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's quickly go into the introduction of the work. My general comment on this introduction is that you applied a wrong approach. Okay, the reason I said so, one of the reasons I said so is because of the second statement you made in the introduction of your work. Okay? After making a very beautiful statement, the first statement, you now said to address these threats, you now started defining climate change disclosure. Okay, so I don't think that is the ideal statement for that position, okay? So you change it. Then the first statement you made in your introduction, you said that climate change has become one of the most impactful issues. Okay, I would advise that you change those words to topical themes of the 21st century.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes,
okay,
your topic
Thank
is
you,
beautiful, but you really need to give it some attention. There are some words, there are some statements you made, and the source of knowledge was not cited. So you state you state the sources. Okay, so you have poor in-test citations. Then also, when you are writing in research, it is not adequate for you to shorten your words like don't, aren't. Are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please. Those words should be changed. They should be written in full, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mrs. Mujidat, please mute your mic. Mrs. Mujidat. Thank you very much. Okay. Favor, are you with me, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you are talking about non-financial firms. I don't see any reason still on your introduction why you are telling us something about financial firms, okay? Then please, there's a place where you wrote Climate Change Act, and the act, you wrote it in small letter. The act should be in cap, the initial cap, please. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Then,
yes, ma'am.
From the last paragraph of your introduction, you said about your study trying to fill gaps. I also heard some of the things you said as gaps that you intended to fill with this study. Truth be told, you need to, the way you said it is not how it is pen on paper. So you need to make it, there's no clear-cut gap that any audience can look at and say this work is filling. Because what you wrote is complex. Okay, even the statements you made, some of them are so complex that I have to be putting punctuations at some point. Okay, so please, you look at it very well. Let's quickly get into your literature review.
Yes.
Your literature review, please, you need to put your sources, your various sources, okay? And like I said, poor in-test citations and the futuristic tense of your work still abound. But for time purpose, remember I told you something about your observations, okay? The observations is 13 years times 74 firms. Okay, for want of time, I didn't ask you how you got 74 firms, whether you just, whether it was purposive, okay, whether you use any formula. So 13 years times 74, okay, thank you.
13 yes, ma'am. It's 13 years, ma'am.
13 years times 74 firms will give us 962 observations. So you may need to reconsider writing 988, okay? It's supposed to be 962.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes. Then the model you used, you did not tell us whether it was adopted or adapted. And the model for this work is truly complex. Okay? When future researchers look at it, they will be left in the dark, not knowing which of the models that you use for the work. Because, for instance, if I recall very well, your work says that there is a violation of normal distribution. So if normal distribution rule is violated in statistics, okay, you are not supposed to use OLS. And since your dependent variable is just 0 and 1, you are supposed to be based on logic regression. Okay, and if you had done only that for the work, it would have been so laudable. You use statistics to make the work complicated. More so, I noticed so much control variables. and control variables. Thank you, sir. And control variable, too much control variables is an abuse and can reduce the statistical power of your work. Okay, so you may need to check your work adequately, okay, for the purpose of, let's say, publication, and to also guide future researchers so that they will not go into the mud by reason of what we are seeing now, okay? You have a very beautiful work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma. Thank you, ma. I appreciate it, ma.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Please, can we call on the General House? Any more contribution? The discussant did extensive work, but that's not to say others may not have something, one thing or the other to contribute. Any further contribution? Okay. Any contribution from our people online? Any contribution? Please feel free to make your contributions known to us. All right. Thank you. Auntie, please, do you have any observation? Can we hear any response from you?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes.
I want to appreciate the contributions from the professors. I really appreciate it for giving me this opportunity to present this paper. I'm going to take all the contributions into regard, and I'm going to make necessary corrections. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Yeah, so moving ahead, the next person. Oluwafumi Layo, Caroline. Oyeni.
I'm here, sir.
All right, thank you. You are welcome. We are ready
Yes,
for
sir.
you. Please go ahead.
Okay,
you have 5 minutes to present your paper.
Oh, thank you, sir.
You are welcome.
My topic is on good day, everyone. Let me quickly share. Good day, everyone. My topic is on voluntary tax compliance determinants among micro, small, and medium enterprises in Nigeria, and the determinants revolve around passive tax fairness, digital tax services, and tax literacy. This came up. My work is trying to fill the gap on studies that jointly examine passive tax fairness, digital services, and tax literacy as determinants of voluntary tax in Nigeria. I examined, I used two theories, economic deterrence theory and the two theories are relevant to this study. Okay. Methodology used was primary data distributed to all micro, small, and medium enterprises in this range, and the model specification is here. The findings was that most of them are small scale, they are service oriented, and they are mostly educated individuals. I guess because most graduates are being now advised to be self-employed. That's why we have most MSMEs in this net to be educated. Another finding was that passive tax fairness has a, looking at it solely alone, it has a limited effect, and only income-related fairness influencing compliance. Then digital tax services play an important role, particularly when they are used and assessed
They add more to this one.
Yes, for the online version for afternoon, sorry.
Okay, no. If not, our own NC there.
Yes.
Hello? Okay, you can hear me. Then tax literacy is most critical determinant with practical knowledge of the taxpayers, them having understanding of the procedure, the driving compliance, and well, so because of time, that's why I'm really rushing.
No. Is it true? Hello, are you true?
I'm here, sir. Okay. It's my network that is.
All right, okay.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah,
so my recommendation is that regulators, that's tax authorities in this category, for this category, should strengthen policies that will promote easier, more affordable access to formal financial services for the SMEs, particularly by expanding digital financial infrastructure and inclusive banking initiative. They should be encouraged to take loan. They should not be loan scared that if they take loan, then the tracking does not necessarily mean their taxes will be high. Then MSE owners should be supported through financial and tax literacy. They need to have at least a little understanding of what it is all about and how it can help their businesses. They should not be scared to pay tax, feeling it will erode their profits. And digital finance trading program also, so that they can effectively utilize available financial services to enhance their profitability and long-term stability. They should not, there shouldn't be, government should not see as taxing to kill them, but taxing to sustain their businesses. So my conclusion is that from my study is that the voluntary tax compliance among MSMEs is influenced not only by enforcing the measures, but also by taxpayers' trust. They need to have trust, institutional trust in the system that, yes, we are paying tax and it's for the good of everyone, especially up and coming businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
We now call on the discussant, Dr. Rachel Bosawa. Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, my professor and my respected colleagues here. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss this work. Madam Caroline Oyeni.
Yes, ma'am.
Well done.
Yes, ma'am.
Well done for putting this together and your presentation. Okay. Generally, like I stated yesterday, we know this conference has a theme, and whenever you put up a work that you want to present in the conference, try as much as possible to state, at least create a paragraph that will link this your work to the theme of the conference. So we'll really see the relevance, and I would agree, I feel that this topic can be linked. So after your introduction, you could just create the last paragraph that you would link this, your paperwork, the title, to the main theme of the conference.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, moving on from there, your topic, I feel that column where you had to not display your proxies for the voluntary tax compliance determinant is not necessary, because your proxies for voluntary tax compliance determinants are perceived tax fairness, digital tax services, and tax literacy. We don't need to see it in the title of this work. In the body, we would see it.
Okay.
So there's
Okay.
really no need for that column, and you display that. Okay, so I suggest that you remove that from the title of this work.
Noted, ma.
Next, ma, while you were presenting, in short, you got me confused in this work because I looked at your abstract. Abstract shows us or tells us a summary of the entire work, and whatever we would see in the body of the work should be in alignment with what your abstract states. While presenting, you said your theories, the theories you adopted were the economic theory and all that. But if you look at your abstract, that's not the theory you stated there. In your abstract, you said this study is anchored on theory of planned behavior and physical exchange theory. That contradicts what you said while presenting and also what I saw in the body of the work. And hereafter, we would also see when we get to your section 5, where you also changed your theory. And at that point, I was like, am I sure this, maybe you adopted, you had a framework, like a work you were trying to edit to suit this work. But there were some things that you didn't get to remove. That's my thoughts. However, I might be wrong. Okay, let's move on. You have time to respond to that. I can see you raised your hands. Okay.
No, I didn't.
Okay, now I move on to your introduction. When you are trying to introduce, I feel you should start with your problem. So I feel the problem here is the voluntary tax compliance. So I feel that second paragraph in your introduction should be the first. So let's really see the issue of the voluntary tax compliance. Thereon, you can bring in your first paragraph, which talks about the micro, small, and medium enterprises. Then you move on to where you introduced your various proxies for the determinant of voluntary tax compliance. Moving on from there, I want to state generally that I think you should look at how your site works. Yes, your in-text citation, most of them you didn't state them well, especially when it has to do with the use of and. You know, when you are citing an author in the body of the work, if the citation, the names of the author are not in brackets, in parentheses, you don't use, if they are in parentheses, you use the and sign. You don't write the and in full. Use the upper sign. Do you get that? But I think in most of your work, you have to write the and in full, even when this the citations were in brackets, and that's common in the work. Please, you need to address that. Still on your introduction, there were some statements you made there which are authoritative. You didn't give us any citation to back it, and I've asked that you should please try to do that. And there was someone you also referenced there, Bello 2026. You know, when I saw this, I was like, oh, this author is very, very much current, seeing that we are in 2026. But do you know, when I went to the reference section, what I saw there is Bello 2023. So I was now wondering, is it that something is missing somewhere? But however, I also saw where you referenced the Bello 2023. So it means that Bello 2026 was not referenced.
That must have been an error.
Okay, noted, ma. Moving on to your page 2, I made a statement there that I expect that, yes, in Nigeria presently, because this your study is based on Nigeria, your micro, small, and medium enterprise in Nigeria, in recent time, we have issues that have to do with tax in Nigeria, especially with this our new tax act of 2025. So, and the whole essence of this new tax act is for compliance, to increase the rate of compliance. So I expected to see right up here that where you would display your understanding of the current happenings in the country that has to do with that rate of compliance. You didn't mention them. And when you now look at the citations in that area, the most recent citation was 2024. And this issue of the current tax problem, or the issue that the president is trying to resolve presently in Nigeria, it's with effect from 2025, and which started in this 2026. So I expect you to review things, state things there that would link to the current happenings with the tax reform that we have in Nigeria. And like I said, I expect that you mention here also the recent move by the president to ensure compliance, as it actually aims at increasing and encouraging informal sector, those that operate in the informal sector, to comply with tax, which this your medium, small and medium, your micro, small and medium enterprises really they operate in such a sector. So please try to do that. Now, conclusively in that your introduction, I think where you were trying to narrow down on your gap, you stated that addressing this gap will provide valuable insight. No, where you stated the gap, you now cited some authors. And I was like, you are the one that cited this gap, or that is identifying this gap. These authors you've cited here, are they the one that identified the gap, or is it you? Because you can't say that you've reviewed some things and you identify a gap. You're also putting the names of some authors there as if they are the ones that have identified this gap. Are you saying in their own research, they mentioned this as a gap, but you said these are the gaps that you want to fill, meaning you are the one that have identified these gaps? So in summary, I feel that those citations there are not really relevant if they are your own gap that you have identified in this work. I move on to your literature review. I'd expect that where you are reviewing literature, you review both. You do the conceptual review and the empirical review together, but that's not what you have done. No problem with that. But where you did your empirical review, you did not, whatever write-up you have here does not portray and what we expect to see in an empirical review. What we expect to see in an empirical review is when you mention an author, or where you cite an author, you let us know what the author have done. Let us know how the author did whatever he or she has done, and what are their findings. And looking at your work, what I read in your empirical review, that's not what you said. You will just list an author and just tell us what they reported. No. The first thing is, let us know what they did. How did they do it? And that's basically their methodology. Do you get that? Okay, then before your empirical review, you also have your theoretical review. I have mentioned that already, that there's a discrepancy which I think you should resolve. Okay, move on to your research gap. You also have section where you have research gap. You didn't really mention cite any author there. Okay, now I move on to your 4, where you were discussing your results and all of that. Or let me start with methodology. You worked with medium, macro, small, and medium scale enterprises. You didn't tell us how many, the population. It's not stated anywhere in this work. How did you arrive at your sample size? Because the title of your work says Nigeria. Is it the entire MSME in Nigeria? What's the population? We don't know. How did you determine your sample size? We don't know. What group make up the sample size? You didn't state it in your methodology. That's very important, because I was really struggling to know how many people you sampled. It was until I got to your results discussion that I just noticed that you had 191 respondents thereabout. So you should let us know that in your methodology, where you discussed your findings. In discussion of findings, you let us know your findings, and you also draw attention to those that your findings are in alignment with, or that your findings aligns with, and those that your findings do not align with or they contradict or they contrast. You didn't do that in discussing findings. That's the proper way to discuss findings in an empirical work. Please, I think you should do that. Okay? Now, your section 5.0. What I wrote there is that this particular section, I think it is not for this work. However, when you were presenting, you also confused me because you said what I saw here that made me feel that it's not from this work. Because this study is of voluntary tax compliance, and your proxies were tax literacy, digital tax system, and fairness. Now, when you are not saying that your recommendation and policy is that they should create funds for MSME. No, that's not related to what your problem is, what you identified. So I think there's a disconnection there. You should try to resolve that. Then again, your 5.1 is your theoretical implication. You now say this study strengthens financial intimidation theory. That brings a third theory in this study. I saw anchored in your abstract. I saw economic in your section 2. And now I'm seeing financial intimidation theory. So I'm now wondering. And that was why your emphasis was now on government and financial institutions should ensure that the MSME has access to funds. That's not related. So you see, your conclusion and your recommendation should flow from your findings. And I feel that what you have put here does not flow from your findings. Lastly, your reference, please. Like I've mentioned before, there are some citations that are not referenced. So what you will do is you will go back, ensure that all citations are referenced and all referenced work are also cited. More so, the use of your and upper sign should also be watched in your reference. So thank you. That will be awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think the discussion is open to the House. Any further comments to enrich the work? Comment.
Good afternoon, everybody. All protocol observed. My name is Dr. Festus Ogo. Yes, I came in between the presentation and there were some comments made by the presenter and even from the discussant that actually caught my attention. When you are doing a research on MSME in Nigeria 2026 and you expect the public to rely on your findings, then there should be currency in your both reference and your data. I don't have a copy of the work, but when the discussant was commenting, I think he made mention of a sample size of 190 something, if I'm right. And the major issue that I find there is when you are talking of MSME in Nigeria, there are statistics that are available. And in case the presenter does not know, if you go to SMIDA will give you statistics of MSME in Nigeria by sector, by state, and by region. So that will give you an idea of how you can determine your sample size for your work. Now, just in case you are having challenges, then the researcher should make it clear in his work that he was not able to determine the sample population. In that case, the population becomes infinite. And if it is infinite, there is a scientific way of determining an infinite population. But in this case, I will not readily agree with that since we have available statistics. And from there, you can use any of the scientific method of determining a sample size which in your work, I think I had mentioning Taro Yamani, which is accepted. So with that, you will be able to get an appropriate sample size for the work. So as it is, talking of work on MSME, and you are using such, I consider it to be not significant in terms of the number of the sample size. And that will raise a lot of issues on the reliability on the outcome of your study. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are we any other comments? If none, can we hear from our presenter if you have any remark to make?
Thank you, Sir Amma, for the observation. That is actually my thesis, is an extract from my thesis. So those theory coming in and out could be the reason. I don't know if they are could be the reason. Then that Bello must have been a typographical error.
Okay.
Yes, it's Bello 2023, not 2026. Thank you, Ma, for the thorough work, and thank you for your time. All those observations are noted, and they will be effected accordingly.
Okay, thank you. So let's move this. Oh, this is my one. Okay. I hope that the next person is with us here. We have, yes, it should be HOV, God bless. Yes.
Yes, I'm here. Good morning. I am ready here.
Hello?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Okay, morning. You have 5 minutes.
I can
please.
hear you. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. You have 5 minutes, please, to present your work. We are all ears here.
Okay, thank you very much, the coordinator and my co-presenters and everyone seated here. My name is God Bless HOV, and I'm here to present on the topic auditing and corporate governance, mechanism for accounting regulations compliance. First of all, I want to look at the...
Hello, please. What's your topic
Hello,
again?
sir. Are you with me, sir?
Yes, what's your topic again? Did you send us 2 papers?
Yes, sir.
2 papers. Which one are you?
Yes, sir.
We have with us here the one, yes.
Okay.
Ownership structure and corporate financial disclosure. That's the one we are expecting from you right now.
Okay, I'll present that one. So I also want to beg the organizers that can I just do the 2 at a time? When I finish the ownership structure, I move straight into the other one so that we discuss everything, because I'm actually in someone's office right now.
Yeah, your discussant for the second one is right now busy somewhere, so we can't allow the 2 for now. Please do the first one first. The ownership structure is the discussant is here.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You are welcome.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, so like I said earlier, my name is God Bless HOV, and my presentation is on the topic ownership structure and corporate financial disclosure, evidence from listed companies in Nigeria. First of all, I want to look at the empirical puzzle behind Nigeria annual reports. Open any Nigerian listed companies annual report, and one thing.
It's just 1 hour 30 minutes. It's just OBJ.
Hello, sir.
Please.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. I was saying that if you open any Nigerian exchange companies listed in Nigeria, their annual report. And the one thing varies erroneously from firm to firm is not the format. IFRS has standard but that standard is it's. Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Some reports offer specific targets, segment analysis. Some even look at they show the transparency related to party disclosure and quantified followed-looked commentary. Others are mere compliance exercise that tells readers very little they could have not guessed. Now, when you look at the problem, I have three problems here. The three ownership structure, rather. We have the one managerial owners, we have institutional investors, and foreign shareholders. Often, let's look at the managerial owners. Often prefer to keep affairs private and disclose only what the law absolutely requires. Now, when you look at it from the institutional investors, they need more details, verifiable data, and more fiduciary duties, bringing analytical capacity to demand it. Now, in the foreign shareholders, it imports disclosure culture from mature capital markets, pressing for standard above local norms. Now, let's look at two dimensions of the problem. Now, we'll look at the first one is conflicting Nigerian evidence. Now, some studies find institutional ownership improve disclosure. This is according to Iwegwe Excel 2026. Others find no significant effect, according to Akintoye and Ayodele in 2026. The evidence on managerial ownership is similarly inconsistent. Entrenchment versus convergence of interest. Now, when we look at a regulatory blind spot, we look at the NCCG in 2018 and the Nigerian Stock Exchange rule focus on what companies must disclose, not the ownership condition that shapes their willingness to disclose well. Generic regime produce uneven outcomes. Now, we'll now look at the gaps identified in this work. We have cross-sectional bias. We also have single channel focus. And the third one is on model moderators. Now, the one we look at the cross-sectional bias, we see that most works.
Hello, please take note. You have 5 minutes for everything, so don't sleep just in one spot, please.
Okay, so let me just go to the theory this work is anchored on. The work is anchored on agency theory. Agency theory. Now, disclosed as monetary device, which is the essence of agency theory is actually to bridge the information asymmetry between the owners and the management. And the more a firm disclose,
hello, go straight to your model. Please go straight to your model. Don't explain agency this. Please go straight to your model and move ahead. You don't have time. Please tell us your model and go straight to your findings and your recommendations, please. You have just 1 minute.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. can't see this thing. I'm not seeing it at all. The black production. So I'm sorry, the system just shut down now, please. I'm really sorry.
All right.
Okay. Okay, sir.
So how can we help you? How can we help you out?
Okay, my system, the thing is not coming up. So let me just look at it and let me open the other part, sir.
Okay, please do that quickly.
Where is this thing?
With the organizer, some of the
Okay. In conclusion, sir.
Okay.
The structure of who own a company shapes economically and statistically meaningful ways the quality of what the company tells the market, managerial entrenched corrections disclosure, institutional monitoring, and foreign norms important hit list. And my recommendations are SEC or the Nigerian Stock Exchange should introduce a ownership stratified disclosure reviewed framework, applied more intensive review to high managerial ownership firms. Then PENCOM develop explicit stewardship expectations through a Nigerian stewardship code model on the UK, South Africa, and Malaysia. Then a Nigerian Stock Exchange establish a premium listing segment with enhanced disclosure expectation model on the JS Premium Board. And on ICANN and ANAN, integrate ownership structure analysis into the corporate governance and reporting competency area. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. We now call on the discussants. Dr. Okungbowa, please, ma'am.
Thank you once more, Mr. Chairman. Mr. God bless, thank you for the work. And I actually was looking forward to your presentation, but somehow it was cut short. Okay, but I've looked at your work. The title is in line with the objective. Your abstract looks good. Everything that is required to be there is there. In your introduction, I have issue with your opening statement. Can I read? Open any Nigerian company's annual report and you will be struck by something that the sentence, the way you started that work, this work doesn't look too professional. And that is exactly how you started your presentation. So I would like you to rephrase or restructure your opening statement. It tells more about you. And as a matter of fact, the entire paragraph of that, your introduction, you need to do some overhauling. This is a paper, not a project work or assignment. So what you will do, your introduction should flow through to the point where you have your objective, hypothesis, and all of that. There's no need segmenting them, especially introduction and statement of the problem. Your statement of the problem, the parts that you call the statement of the problem, need some attention, especially in the area of real life problem. What you gave here is the empirical or the research problem. So your statement of the problem is lopsided. what is the issue surrounding corporate financial disclosure and in the listed firms that you are talking about? Are they having issues? What are the issues? Talk about use some statistical data to show some trend. That is the problem variable. So you should tell us what they are experiencing. You can even pick 1 or 2 or 3 of such firms to tell us their experience before you start telling us that this problem has been addressed by empirical studies. Is that okay? The other aspect of your statement of problem is well written. What do you call the purpose of the study? I asked you remove that word to. You see, it's monotonic. It's just continuous. You kept using to. You don't have to. There's a way you will state the fact that there are other objectives. There you can say 3 specific objectives are to. So all those words to, and the renumbering, as well as the bullets, you remove them. Then if you look at it's actually objective. In papers, we call them objective. You look at your objectives, it's looking like a double-edged stuff for each of them. So I would like you to restructure your objective to be in line with your research question. Okay, let me read one. To determine how managerial ownership relates to disclosure quality, whether it drives disclosure up through aligned incentives or suppresses it through managerial entrenchment. So that's like explaining, it's no longer objective. So you can tell us to determine whether managerial ownership imparts disclosure quality among the listed firms in Nigeria. Do you get that? So please restructure all 3 objectives to be in line with your research questions. Then your conceptual framework. I think it should come after your conceptual literature. And what you call conceptual framework, what you call figure there, it's actually a table. It's actually a table, so please. The figure, it's a diagram. You want to use it to show the link between the independent control and the dependent variables. So please, you need to do the needful. And of course, if it's a figure, the title of your figure should come beneath the figure. So take note of that. Firm size and board independence that you brought in as one of your major gaps. I saw there, you said that you are trying to do a moderation, that no other study have done moderation. But when I looked through your work, I didn't see anything that has to do with moderation. There were no interaction variables. What I saw with firm size and board dependence, I'm looking at that your table that you called figure, right? What I saw there is they are acting as control variables, or at best, mediating variables. So, but in your gap, you stated clearly that that is one of the major things you are doing. So if you didn't do the moderation and that you had claimed from your gap of existing literature, I think you are not really having any strong footing for this work. So I would suggest it's either you do the moderation as you claim, or they can't even be moderated with themselves. They can either be they will be moderated with the in any of the independent variables. Are you getting that? Or you call them mediating variables. Treat them as mediating. There's difference between moderating and mediating variables. So please, that's one major thing, defect I saw in your work. Your empirical review, they appear to be very scanty, even though they are very recent. In fact, almost all of them, about 6 of them, you reviewed just 6 papers. For a work like this, it's insufficient. They are all 2026. Then I said, it's fine, but I think you should add more literature, empirical literature. They don't necessarily have to be in 2026, but current literature, okay, to your work. Then add other, the methodology and scope from each of the empiricals were totally missing. You didn't add them. So your report appear to be kind of incomplete. Then I don't see any need for the summary of empirical review, the table that you brought in again. It's like repetition. Please, for a paper, you don't need this. Remove the table, the summary of empiricals that you have there, and use that space to add more empirical review. Then your gaps in existing literature. Your gap number 3, I'm back again, moderating effect of fence size and board independence on ownership disclosure was not attended to in this work. So you can't, aim that is your gap when you didn't do that. Cite authors to buttress your claims in all your gaps. Okay? You said people did this, people that, many authors, but you need to acknowledge them. Then your sample from 157 to 60, you didn't show any scientific or probabilistic method that you used. You only told us that you adopted the purposive. For such a huge drop in sample, I think you should start the process with any of the scientific or probabilistic method. You can use the Taro-Yamani before you can now adopt your purposive method. Then, of course, you would have to justify the reason for purposive. I hope that is clear. Variable measurements.
Yes,
variable measurement should come after the model specification. That is, you have used, you are telling us, describing what you have not shown us. So please take note of that.
Should come before
Model, yes, should come after model specification. Now, on your model specification, you didn't tell us where you adapted or adopted your model from. Please, you need to state that and, of course, tell us how you modified the data. Then, under your model specification, I saw that you started discussing Osman tests and even the results. That is a place where you are supposed to immediately, that's your 6.6. You started discussing something different from model specification. Let me read. The Osman test was applied to each model. Results, model 1, and please, that is not acceptable. What you have to tell us there, where you have your Osman test discussion, is where you adapted or adopted your model from. Then, on your model properly, you specified your 3 models, the econometrics form. You didn't show us the functional forms. Please specify the functional forms of your model before you specify the econometric model. Then I also saw that you had 3 models because you splitted your ownership structure variables. You broke them into 3. You put them in 3 different models. These ownership structures, they are not in any case related. So rather than having them as individual coming into a different model, you can have all 3 and have all 3 in a model and have it as a multiple regression model with your with your control variables. Because if you look at what you have in model 1, 2, 3, you only have the key independent variables as 1 each. Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 control variables. You will run into trouble at that. The only way you can have it is if you're doing what you intend doing, that you claim is your major gap, which is moderation. So, but I will advise you put all 3 ownership structure variable, the institutional, managerial, put all of them under one model. One model will suffice for this work. Okay? And you didn't provide the a priori expectation with symbols. Immediately after your model specification, you are expected to do that. You're expected to do that. It didn't appear anywhere. So let us have your model, your a priori, because that is the yardstick with which you are going to tell us that your result met the expected sign. Methodology. Under your methodology, you did not discuss your estimation technique. I saw it only in your abstract. You said you used the panel generalized least square. This must be discussed immediately after your model specification. You don't have to take so much, like one paragraph we do. Then your result now, correlation. You didn't tell us, you didn't draw a conclusion. Okay, based on your correlation coefficient, based on your correlation coefficient, rather, you have to use the IVs, the independent variables, to draw a conclusion with regards to the status of multicollinearity. That's how you end your discussion of correlation analysis. Then your 8.4 panel GLS, I didn't see moderation variable in your panel GLS2. What I saw there is mediation. You see, I've been repeating that same statement because the reason is because you told us in your work that is your major gap. So we did not see any of your diagnostic tests. There was no post-diagnostic test, especially heteroskedasticity, because you actually corrected for it. That's why you used the panel GLS. But we didn't see the result that warranted the correction that you did. So drawing conclusion or making inferences with a result that we didn't see the post-diagnostic test, it's a bit worrisome. Then lastly, your recommendations. Your recommendation, it's more of sentiment. So please let them be tied to your result as well as your objective, rather than, saying things as they come to your mind. So please ensure that all your in-test citations are captured under your final reference list. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. That's another comprehensive discussion. And then the floor is still open. Any further contribution? We are here to enhance the status of the work. Any further contribution? Well, if none, even from the online, people with us online, any contribution? We are waiting. Well, if none, no further contribution, can our presenter have any comment to make from the discussion
yes,
so far?
First of all, I want to thank, hello, sir.
Yeah, we're with you.
Yes, thank you. I also want to thank my discussant for the observation and the areas he note that I should take note of. So with her observation, I will go back and take note of all the observation and work on them. Thank you, and God bless you, man.
You're welcome. Where are we now? Okay.
Now.
No, let me first ask whether this person, we didn't,
The person has been there.
this one?
Oh, we didn't take that.
No, I don't think we did. Okay. That's to be discovered by Chinedu. Okay. Yeah, but let's jump, because it's like this woman is saying.
No. It's cool.
Yeah, please. We're coming back to Florence Iyobo and Oni Michael, if you are there to present your work on corporate governance, employee job satisfaction, and so on. Are you ready to present your paper? Well, if you are not there, we take the next one, Agada, Daniel, and co. on news consumption in social and mainstream medias. in the context of democratization and reliability, views of youths in Makurdi and Lafia metropolis. Is Agada and Co, are you there with your paper? Please unmute Agada, Daniel and Co. Are we ready?
Sorry, my mic. I don't know if you can hear me. Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon. We are with you. Please unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now, sir?
Yes, we are with you.
Okay. So my name is Daniel Agada. I'm a PhD student from Glorious Vision University. Our work is co-author with Khadija Yakubu from Federal University Lafia, a lecturer, and my friend Solomon Arowola from Bingham University.
All right. Go ahead. Please, you have just 5 minutes. You are muting, unmuting, and muting. And what's the problem? You are wasting your time, please.
Okay, sorry, please. So we worked on news consumption in social and mainstream media in the context of democratization, reliability, taking views of youths within Makurdi and Lafia metropolis. The research was actually inspired from an argument we had trying to come to terms with the advent of social media and news consumption, if it will affect or lead to the death of traditional media. So we decided to go to field to test the audience from Makurdi metropolis. Our focus is on the youth. The rationale for the study, social media has transformed news dissemination and access, as we have seen of late. Even the traditional media, most of them have online presence so that they can actually meet the audience where they move to. So the core of this research is to find out if the audience believe the news they consume from social media, or they still turn back to the traditional media for verification and reliability. Consequently, the statement of the problem is to look at social media, investigate whether the use on social media news are still reliable or they go back to the mainstream media. The objective of the studies is to identify whether use mostly, where the youth in Makurdi and Lafia metropolis mostly access their news, to examine how social media democratization influences the news they consume, and to determine which media youth rely on for factual reportage. Consequently, to find out if there is a future for mainstream media in the face of the democratization of news by social media. We applied the technological acceptance model and source credibility theory. Technological acceptance model was used to explain acceptance of social media due to the usefulness and ease of use, while source credibility theory, people tend to trust information more when the source appears to be credible. So we stand to test if the audience sees social media as a credible source of information, or they still go back to the mainstream media. Conceptual review, the concept of social media was reviewed. We talked about its democratization and then the participation and interaction due to user-generated content. Then we look at examples of social media like Facebook, Twitter, blogs, and the rest, and how it promotes democratization of news, and then the challenges associated with social media, which has to do with fake news, propaganda, and misinformation. From there, we look into Fiedler's metamorphosis, the movement, the metamorphosis of traditional media to modern social media. The survey adopted survey research design using the quantitative approach, and questionnaires were used as instruments for data collections within Makurdi and Lafia metropolis. We purposely sampled 200 respondents, 100 each from the two metropolis, and had a return rate of 184 questionnaire. And then we used Likert 5-point scale to analyze the data. findings made from the research is that social media increase participation and interactivity in news consumption, and it equally give voice to ordinary citizens. And we were able to demonstrate it with ample examples of the issue of the police sergeant that lost his life while protecting Zenith Bank, which was not known until the issue came on social media, and the recent uproar with the police killing somebody at the Furun Delta State, and the young man that was shot, a serving corps member, by men of the armed forces in Abuja, I think last month. These issues, we believe, wouldn't have been known in the era of traditional media or given attention, but for social media, it was escalated. The most used in these two areas we covered admitted that they access news through Facebook, Twitter, blogs, and Google. However, the traditional media, they go back to traditional media to validate the authenticity of those news they access on social media. Respondents reject the idea that mainstream media would disappear. It is the belief of the researchers from the finding made that mainstream media will continue to coexist with social media. And this is against the argument given by some quarters that social media will take over, and with time, there will be death of traditional media. This, the findings made here, disagree with those arguments from those quarters, and it's in line with Pew Research recently that social media cannot and will never take the place of traditional media. Conclusion, the social media, we concluded that social media has redefined news culture and consumption. Traditional journalism, we believe, will remain relevant and trusted as a reliable source of news consumption. Mainstream media are adapting to technology and social change, and we demonstrate, we looked at how traditional media, most of the traditional media, radio, television stations have moved to online to have an online presence. Then future journalists, as a result of this, must combine their digital skills with professional ethical accuracy. Consequent on these findings, we recommended, among other things, that social media literacy should be promoted among citizen journalists. This, we believe, will help to curb the incidence of fake news, misinformation, and propaganda. And then we equally recommend that government to continue to carry out research on social and mainstream media relationship. And government should equally implement balanced social media regulation, while journalism schools should introduce more social new media courses, which we believe has come into play with the unbundling of mass communication of recent time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now call on the discussant, Dr. Josephine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Other protocol duly observed. I want to say thank you to Agada, is it Dr. Agada, or okay, Mr. Agada, and co for the presentation. But taking from how you presented your work is far different from what I have here on the work you submitted, in the sense that it's as if when you want to present, you try to, update your work. But what you submitted here is far, far different, in the sense that I ran through the work and I found out that your analysis is from 9 years back, as at 2017, which needed, an overhauling. You need to, rework this paper in that regard. You have to update, a lot of things to update. Let me start from the topic. You said news consumption in social and mainstream media in the context of democratization and reliability. There's a column there which is no longer relevant. You have to expunge that, and I restructure as follows. I said news consumption in social and mainstream media in the context of democratization and reliability among the youth, among the youth in Makurdi and Lafayette metropolis. Then looking at your abstract, the opening sentence needed to be rephrased to be more professional. He said, it is one thing for a medium of information dissemination to allow unhindered publication of news, and it's another thing for the content of such a medium to be relied on. Please, I would like you to rephrase that statement to be more, apt. Then in your findings, in your conclusion here, in your abstract, I saw a statement that I quickly ran back to your recommendation. I couldn't find it there. You said, based on the findings, the paper concludes that traditional journalism is not still the most reliable source of news, despite the presence of news on social media. But you said that from your presentation that, youth, after getting information from social media, youth also go back to the mainstream media, which is the traditional media, to verify their news. And if you are saying that it's not still the most reliable, based on your conclusion, so how are they, putting trust in terms of going back to the traditional media to confirm the news they got from the social media? That is a question I would like you to, reflect on. Then let me go through the work stage by stage. You said from your first one there, background stroke / rationale of the study. It's a paper for presentation. You should just use introduction and let it flow through. Okay? The reason why you are embarking on this study should be a paragraph in it after giving a brief explanation of the subject area or the issues being studied. Okay? Before you think of dealing with the specific issue or gap the research need to address. Okay? And when I was going through it, I couldn't really, the statement problem was not really clear because, was not really clear because I saw something about a case as at 2017 about using social media via GoFundMe to, reward a family that lost a loved one. And you also said that that was not evident in the traditional media. Mind you, you know that, I'm not going to defend anything here, but you know that citizen journalism is different from social media journalism. And we know that in social media journalism, everyone that posts content or information on social media, it comprises of both the professionals and the citizen journalists. Okay? So you are trying to, I don't know, you are talking about how the people, based on your topic, how the youth view, how they assess the kind of media they want to access information from. Is it either social media or the mainstream media? But here, as part of your problem, you are talking about, trying to compare using social media for justice purposes, and the traditional media are not towing in that line. So it's not really clear. And also in your work, I realized that there are no source attribution, no in-text, just scanty in-text citation, and the ones you use are very, very old. Okay? And now, the era we are now is the era of artificial intelligence, and things have changed. Most of us have gone, the professional treating news consumption, news package, and all that has gone past this level. So please, you just need to look into that and make corrections in that regard. Then I looked through your objectives of study. I did some restructuring because it was not flowing. You said to find out where youth in Makurdi and Lafayette Metropolis mostly access news between social and mainstream media. It was restructured to find out whether youth in Makurdi and Lafayette Metropolis mostly access news through social media, the social media or the mainstream media. Then the next one, you said to investigate why news democratization on social media has influenced news consumption patterns of youth in Makurdi and Lafayette Metropolis. So I had to rephrase it to investigate how news democratization on social media has influenced news consumption pattern of youth in Makurdi and Lafayette Metropolis. Then the next one there, he said to find out the media that youth in Makurdi and Lafayette Metropolis rely on more for factual reportage. So I had to rephrase to determine which media platform youth in Makurdi and Lafayette Metropolis rely on more for factual reportage. Then the last one there, you said to ascertain the views of youth in Makurdi and Lafayette Metropolis on the future of the mainstream media in the face of news democratization on social media. So I had to, rephrase it to ascertain the youth views in Makurdi and Lafayette Metropolis on the future of mainstream media in the face of new democratization on social media. So please take note. Then you went straight to, you said theoretical appraiser. No, it should be theoretical framework. You anchored your work on 2 theories is good, but I think I prefer you using just one theory, which is the source credibility theory. But both theories are also apt for the work. Then under the source credibility theory, the first paragraph should be deleted. I would like you to go straight to the theory, and who propounded it, which we started at the second paragraph. You can kick it from that, take it from that angle. Then in that theory, that your citations are wrongly done. Based on this conference rules, we are supposed to use the Harper 7th edition. You really need to update your work. Some of them are 2004, 2001, 2012. It's too old. There are no current, citation here. Then you went further to talk about your literature review. You said conceptual review, You said social media conceptualized. You looked at social media, which is part of one of the variables. And you were trying to quote Abati 2016. I realized that you are doing a direct quotation. You have to indent it, which is okay. But using a double line spacing, I don't understand, because all this while you've been using like 1.5 spacing. So I don't know why you decide to change your, this line spacing. And going through, there are no single, citation. We are talking about the social media. There are a lot of people that this area is not new. Lots of scholars have worked on social media. It's online. You can get it from Google Scholar and other, online journals. That you have to look at how they perceive the use of social media, which you did not. It's as if you just, downloaded something regarding to social media and it was pasted here. Please, you have to look into that, because no source. I'm just going through it. I was saying no source, all true. Then the aspect you talk about, the classification of distinct categories of that types of social media, you should expunge the bulletin. It's not allowed. You can, use comma to present it in a sentence form, okay? Then you omitted a key variable. You talk about social media. Then the next thing is supposed to be the mainstream media. It wasn't treated in this work. Then you went through to media morphosis, okay? Though it's not obvious part of the, concept that you're supposed to treat, but it's still okay. But I would like you to, remove it. Then the next one is news democratization and reliability. Looking at the social and mainstream media nomenclatures, I looked at it. I realized that it was not well paragraphed, and there are some. I look as if you just copied and pasted it, because there are some lines underlining that shows as if it's copied from the internet, and it's not even bold. It's not showing black. It's showing as if it's another color. Maybe it's a blue or gray color. So I don't think you did proper editing in this your work, apart from the old references or old citations. This paragraph or this page 11 of your work need to be worked on and updated. Also on them regarding Jennifer 2010, trying to quote it, in-text it verbatim, you also need to look into it. Go through download the upper 7th style, referencing style, understudy it, and so you can be able to apply it well in your work. Then let's quickly go through to the methodology. Here, okay, before I go to the methodology, I realized that there's no literature empirical review of your work, and I went to your discussion of findings. I find out that you were using some works to back up your findings, but it's not in the work. So I don't know where it appears from. Please, you have to indicate it under your empirical review. And all the works you used were all old. Well, anyway, I will say because the your analysis is also old based on the fact that it was done in 2017. I can understand, but now that you are trying to use it now in this 2026, I expected you to what? To overhaul it, rework it, to be in line with what that is current. Okay? So your methodology, I'll quickly brush through. There's no scientific justification of how you got the 200 respondents. You said you got 100 purposely from Makurdi. How? I don't understand. What's your total number what's your total size population? And how did you arrive at that? You need to clarify it. Okay? Then I also saw you said you surveyed opinions of university lecturers, print and electronic media journalists, and communication students. How? Because you were talking about you are trying to get the views of youth. So I cannot place it. Please look at it very well because it doesn't align. Thank you. Then also your conclusion. Okay, there's a quick thing here. Your research question 1, when you were discussing it, is not in line with what you have in your research objective. I said your research question 1 raised does not align with your research objective. Your research question 1 is your research objective 2. So please, you have to work it out. Okay? Then also, apart from the old, your research objective question 2 is your research objective 1. So please, arrange it so that it will be, in accordance with what is in your research objective. Then also, you went also in terms of your recommendation, your conclusion. Sorry, let me quickly. Yeah, I'm coming. Okay, your conclusion, you said that it's a deviant case that it contradicts assumptions of some scholars. I was asking, what are these assumptions? I don't really understand. It doesn't. Your conclusion here does not align with what you concluded in your abstract. And also, in your recommendation, you said that the traditional media proprietors should invest in social media literacy initiative to equip general public as well as media practitioners with knowledge and positive use of social media. We have passed that level because right now we are in the era of AI. Please, in general, I want you to look at this paper and update it, to the current situation we are. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that extensive review. Okay. So it's open to the floor. Please, we'll make more contributions. You have anything? No, I think so. Any contribution from members of the floor? All right. If none, maybe we'll call again. We'll go back to our number. Let me first go. Wait. Okay, remove this. Let's go back to this. Let's just see whether it's available. We are asking if. Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry, the presenter will please, will still give you opportunity if you have any comment, any observation from your end.
Okay, thank you so much for the physical analysis of the work. I've taken note of all the observations raised. I will effect the necessary corrections. This is actually my first seminar conference paper presentation, and we hope to come back and do better next time. Thank you so much, It was a critical review, and I've taken note of everything stated.
Yeah, congratulations for a good start. All right, thank you. All right, thank you. Right now, we are going for tea break, so we will reconverge at 1 o'clock. So please, everybody should take note of this.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for the virtual session. And an online participant, I believe you've been enriched by the comments of the discussant of the various papers. We will be taking a break right about now. and we will reconvene again by 1 for the second concurrent session, okay? So we'll be stepping out at this moment. Participants, please, on your way out, you... Yes. Yes, sir. So thank you so much. See you in an hour time. Dr. Emike, the people for tea break, are they there at all? The people for tea break, are they there at all? Yes, yes. Please go out and take your tea break on your way out.